In 1999, Olusegun Obasanjo was considered politically finished. No structure, no money, no party. The man had spent years in a prison cell, written off by everyone who thought they understood Nigerian power. 18 months later, he was sitting in Aso Rock as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What destroyed his reputation in 1998 is the exact same thing quietly happening to Bola Tinubu right now. And almost nobody, not the newspapers, not the TV analysts, not the Twitter commentators, is naming it directly. Everyone is arguing about petrol prices. Everyone is talking about the naira collapse. Everyone is debating whether ordinary Nigerians can survive the cost of living. Those conversations matter, but they are missing the real question. The real question is this: is Bola Ahmed Tinubu still the dominant political force heading into 2027, or has the window already started closing without him even fully realizing it? Before this video is over, I will show you the one internal political signal, not the economy, not security, not social media sentiment, the one signal that will determine whether Tinubu arrives at 2027 with his power intact or arrives already broken. Stay with me, because this gets deeper. And if you are new here, welcome to Naija Update 24/7. This channel exists for one reason: to give every Nigerian, wherever you are, whatever region you come from, the political analysis that mainstream media will not touch. Hit subscribe now and do not move. We are just getting started. Let us establish what the clock actually is and who set it. Tinubu assumed office on May 29, 2023, with one of the most difficult political inheritances any incoming Nigerian president has ever faced. Within 24 hours of taking the oath of office, he announced the removal of the fuel subsidy, a subsidy that had been politically untouchable for decades. The naira was already under pressure before he arrived. Insecurity was burning across the northwest, the northeast, and the southeast. He walked into a fire that had been building for years. Now, the 10-month window that everyone is now discussing is not a media invention. It is not journalism looking for a headline. It is derived from hard electoral mechanics that anyone who understands Nigerian politics will immediately recognize. Here's how it works. APC's internal presidential campaign machinery, the delegates, the governors, the party chieftains, the financial structures, typically activates between 12 and 18 months before an election. That means by mid to late 2025, political actors across every zone of this country will begin making private calculations, not public ones, private ones. They will be asking each other quietly in hotels in Abuja, in offices in Kano, in boardrooms in Lagos, in party secretariats in Port Harcourt. Is Tinubu a viable vehicle for 2027, or is he becoming a liability? That question, once it starts being asked seriously, changes everything. And what accelerated this conversation into public view was a convergence of signals in the first quarter of 2025. Declining presidential approval ratings in internal party surveys, open dissent beginning to surface from Southeast and Middle Belt APC figures, and growing organized noise from the PDP and Labour Party about early coalition building. Now, here's what I need you to understand, because this is where most analysts are getting it completely wrong. The 2027 election will not be lost at the ballot box. It will be decided in private meetings between now and December 2025. In hotel lobbies, in governors' sitting rooms, in back channels that no journalist will ever fully document. The question, the only question that matters right now, is whether Tinubu understands it in time to act on it. Let us talk about the institutions in play, because this is not just about personalities, it's about structures. First, the APC national structure. The All Progressives Congress is not a monolith. It never has been. It's a coalition of at least 4 distinct power blocks, and they do not all want the same thing. You have the Tinubu political machine, Lagos-based, Yoruba Southwest in its core identity, you have the Northern Establishment Bloc, historically linked to Buhari-era figures. You have the Southeast APC minority faction, fragile, thin, under enormous pressure from Igbo public opinion. And you have the Middle Belt progressive faction, which has always been the most ideologically restless part of the coalition. For Tinubu to secure re-election, he needs APC's National Executive Committee to remain loyal. He needs delegates at a national convention to affirm his candidacy. And he needs governors across a minimum of 25 states to commit real campaign resources, not symbolic endorsements, but resources. Here's the problem. 5 APC governors are currently operating in states where their own political survival may require them to create distance from a weakened presidency. And governors in Nigeria are not bound by loyalty, they are bound by electoral mathematics.
The National Assembly. Tinubu needs the Senate and the House to keep passing his economic reform agenda. Legislative friction is already visible, and a hostile or ambivalent legislature does not just slow governance, it sends a signal to investors, to party stakeholders, to every political actor watching from a distance. It says, this president's authority is eroding. Third, INEC. The Independent National Electoral Commission's independence is constitutionally guaranteed, but practically contested. Ahead of 2027, every major decision INEC makes, appointments, technology choices, state-level processes, will be scrutinized and weaponized by all sides. The BVAS system, the iRev upload platform, both of which shaped 2023 outcomes, will be the subject of intensifying political negotiation. Third, the judiciary. Tinubu's 2023 victory was affirmed by the Supreme Court. But between now and 2027, there will be multiple subnational elections, governorship contests, legislative by-elections, and every judicial decision in every one of those contests will be read as a political signal. I want to plant something in your mind right now, and I will come back to it later. There is a specific institutional vulnerability, one that Tinubu's own legal team is aware of, that opposition parties are quietly and methodically studying. I will come back to it, but first, let us talk about who actually benefits if Tinubu weakens. Who gains if Tinubu's political capital continues to erode? The PDP reformation camp. A weakened Tinubu is the best recruitment tool the People's Democratic Party has since 2015. Former PDP governors who defected to APC when the wind was blowing a different direction are watching very closely. If the political weather shifts, redefection stops being betrayal, it becomes rational self-preservation. And in Nigerian politics, rational self-preservation always wins. Watch governors in states where PDP has structural roots but APC currently holds power. Their loyalty is not ideological, it is transactional. The transaction is currently under review. The Labour Party and the Peter Obi dimension. Peter Obi's 2023 performance, especially in the southeast and in urban centers across all geopolitical zones, demonstrated something that the political establishment did not want to fully acknowledge: a structural shift in Nigerian youth political behavior. The challenge for LP is converting protest votes into a durable party machine. They currently hold no governorship, and without governorships, you have no patronage infrastructure, no campaign architecture, and no way to mobilize at scale. But a weakened Tinubu opens space for LP to drive youth voter registration, space to consolidate social media momentum into actual ward-level structures. The question is whether they can finance it and whether they can build it fast enough. Northern heavyweight actors. The North is not one thing. It never is. Former President Buhari's camp, the Kwankwasiya movement in Kano, and the PDP-aligned northern governors each represent distinct power centers with distinct agendas. But here is the dominant northern calculation, and I want you to hear this clearly. If a southerner must hold Aso Rock after 2027, the preference is for one who is politically indebted to the north. A weakened Tinubu becomes one of two things: either a manageable and pliable partner or a candidate to be discarded and replaced with someone more accommodating. The North's leverage increases precisely as Tinubu's political capital decreases. That is not hostility, that is strategy. And then, the most dangerous group of all, Tinubu's own inner circle. Ministers, senators, party figures who owe everything, their appointments, their access, their contracts, to Tinubu's patronage. These are the people who will begin hedging first, not dramatically, not publicly, quietly communicating to opposition figures that they remain open to conversation, quietly making themselves available. This is not disloyalty in the dramatic sense. This is Nigerian political insurance, and it is already happening. Now, before I go further, drop a comment below. I want to know what you think before we get to the part that changes everything. Let me give you the regional picture quickly. Southwest, Tinubu's home base, but not immune. If economic pain is concentrated and visible in Lagos, even Yoruba political solidarity has a ceiling. Southeast, already the weakest link in his coalition. APC's Igbo support was thin in 2023. It will require genuine political and security concessions to hold, not promises, actual concessions. South-South, the Wike factor. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike is a wild card whose loyalty is personal, not ideological. Watch him carefully. Northwest and Northeast, the bedrock of Nigerian presidential mathematics. Without the North's commitment, no presidential candidate crosses the constitutional threshold. Full stop. North Central, the Middle Belt, the swing region. Historically contested, security deterioration in this zone directly shapes political sentiment, and sentiment in the Middle Belt is not stable right now. Once again, kindly remember to subscribe to my channel. I understand it means nothing to you, but it means everything to me. This work of research and analysis cost me a lot, and the only means of paying me back is your subscription. Thank you.
And then there are the silent stakeholders, the military and security establishment, whose institutional interests in budget allocations and command appointments always shape presidential mathematics in ways that are never publicly acknowledged. And organized business, particularly the Lagos private sector, whose stability depends on presidential predictability. Here is a president almost nobody in this conversation is referencing. In 2006, Olusegun Obasanjo had a full legislative majority, he had a growing economy, he had absolute party dominance, and he still failed to extend his tenure, not because the public stopped him, but because 17 senators made one decision in one night. That is how presidential power ends in Nigeria, not with a bang, with a quorum call. Let us bring this home. What does presidential political weakness actually mean for people who are not in Abuja? Economic policy continuity. Nigeria's reform program, subsidy removal, naira liberalization, the tax reform legislation currently before the National Assembly, all of this requires consistent executive authority to push through. A president whose political capital is visibly depleting will face resistance to every bill, every regulatory reform, every partnership. And when foreign and domestic investors sense a lame duck presidency 2 years before an election, capital decisions get deferred. That deferral is not an abstraction. It means fewer jobs, slower infrastructure, a weaker naira. Federal-state relations. Governors who sense a weakening center will assert fiscal independence and resist federal coordination on security operations, on education funding, on primary healthcare delivery. The constitutional debate over state police, currently before the National Assembly, will be directly shaped by the president's political standing. A strong president shapes the legislation, a weakened one signs whatever emerges. Security. Presidential political weakness creates operational ambiguity for security forces. Theater commanders, police commissioners, intelligence chiefs, they read political signals. The Northeast, Northwest, and Southeast security theaters each require consistent political will at the executive level. Political distraction at the center has historically correlated with security deterioration on the periphery. And finally, interfaith and interethnic dynamics. Tinubu's presidency carries a specific constitutional symbolism, a southern Muslim at the helm with a northern Christian vice president. That combination was deliberately engineered to signal inclusion. A politically weakened Tinubu opened space for ethnic entrepreneurs and religious demagogues to exploit perceived power vacuums. Every region in Nigeria has actors waiting for exactly that opening. Briefly, because this matters and is almost never discussed in domestic political analysis, Western governments, the United States, the United Kingdom, the European Union, do not publicly frame their Nigeria engagement in terms of any individual president's political strength. But at the diplomatic cable level, assessments of Nigerian presidential viability directly shape decisions about aid, security cooperation, and trade agreements. Nigeria's debt restructuring negotiations with multilateral institutions, its IMF consultations, its MCC compact engagement, all of these require a president with sufficient political capital to credibly commit to reform timelines. A president fighting for domestic political survival cannot credibly commit to anything international. And ECOWAS, Nigeria's leadership of West Africa's regional body and its role in the ongoing coup response diplomacy across Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso, requires a president perceived as politically stable at home. A president consumed by internal coalition management cannot project regional authority. For Nigerians in the diaspora, in the UK, the US, Canada, across Europe, remittance flows now exceed $20 billion annually. Those flows are tied directly to exchange rate stability and macroeconomic predictability. Both are tied to presidential political durability. The diaspora is not a passive observer, it is a political actor. And a diaspora that loses confidence in Tinubu's durability will shift its political investments accordingly. Let me give you the strongest case for Tinubu's survival, because intellectual honesty requires it. First, incumbency is a profound structural advantage in Nigerian politics. Sitting presidents control federal patronage, appointments, contracts, security deployments, infrastructure placements in ways no challenger can match until the campaign period proper. That is real power. Do not underestimate it. Second, the opposition is fragmented. PDP is internally divided. Labour Party lacks governorship-level structure. Without a unified opposition ticket, Tinubu does not need to be loved. He only needs to be organized. Nigerian elections are won by structure, not sentiment.
The economic trajectory may improve. Reforms of this scale historically cause peak pain in years 1 and 2, with measurable improvement in years 3 and 4. If the Nigerian economy stabilizes meaningfully by May 2026, if ordinary people feel it, the political mathematics can shift significantly in Tinubu's favor. Now, two misconceptions I want to dismantle quickly. Misconception 1. Nigerians vote based on economic performance. The evidence does not consistently support this. Nigerians vote based on ethnic bloc mobilization, regional loyalty, religious identity, and structural party organization, with economic performance as a secondary overlay. Misconception 2. If Tinubu fixes the economy, the North will support him. Northern political support is transactional with Northern power brokers, not with Northern populations reacting to macroeconomic data. The negotiation that matters is elite level, not mass sentiment. Now, I promised you two things earlier. Let me deliver them both. The institutional vulnerability opposition parties are studying. The Supreme Court's 2023 judgment, while affirming Tinubu's victory, left certain procedural questions in Nigerian electoral jurisprudence genuinely unsettled. Opposition legal teams are building arguments not to relitigate 2023, but to establish judicial precedents through subnational elections between now and 2026 that could reshape the evidentiary threshold for 2027 petitions. The legal battle for 2027 has already begun. It is just not happening in a courtroom yet. And the one signal nobody in mainstream media is naming: the most dangerous opponent Tinubu faces in the next 10 months is not Peter Obi. It is not Atiku Abubakar. It is not any northern governor. It is an APC senator from the southwest, someone inside Tinubu's own house, who decides that personal political survival requires creating public distance from the presidency. The moment that happens openly, it becomes permission for every other wavering figure to follow. Watch the Southwest APC legislative bloc. That is your political barometer. 5 signals. Watch all 5. 1. APC governorship elections. Any state where APC loses a governorship, particularly in the Southwest, will be read as evidence that the Tinubu machine is weakening. 2. Legislative defections. The first APC National Assembly member who publicly signals support for an opposition presidential aspirant marks the beginning of open defection season. 3. Northern governor positioning. If 2 or more APC northern governors begin making public statements that diverge from presidential messaging, they are not yet defecting. They are auditioning for a post-Tinubu arrangement. 4. The central bank. Any perception that monetary policy is being bent toward electoral spending will trigger capital flight signals immediately. 5. And this is the one I promised you from the very beginning. Watch who attends the 2025 APC National Convention, and more specifically, watch who sends a proxy instead of attending personally. In Nigerian politics, physical presence at a party event is a loyalty signal. Absence, even with a plausible excuse, is the earliest and most reliable indicator of political hedging. If more than 8 APC governors send proxies to the next national convention, Tinubu's inner circle will know before any journalist does that the coalition has begun to fracture. Watch the attendance list. So, we started with one question. Is Bola Tinubu still the dominant political force heading into 2027, or has the window already started closing? Here is the honest answer. Tinubu is not finished. Incumbency is real, the opposition is fragmented, and if the economy shows measurable improvement by late 2026, the political mathematics can shift. But the risk is real, it is accelerating, and it operates on a timeline that most Nigerians focused on fuel prices and school fees are not watching. The decisions that determine 2027 are being made right now in rooms that cameras never enter, by people whose names are not trending on Twitter. Whatever region you are from, North or South, Muslim or Christian, Oil Belt or Sahel, a politically weakened president means slowed infrastructure, reduced security coordination, deferred investment, and a governance vacuum that produces instability across all zones. The national interest is not Tinubu's survival. The national interest is a functional executive for the next 3 years, whoever occupies it. That is what every Nigerian should be watching. If this analysis gave you clarity, share it with one Nigerian who needs to understand what is really happening right now. Like, subscribe. Naija Update 24/7. We never stop watching.